Hey YouTube, I'm today going to talk about the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System, what it is. This is one of the first root nodes of the, let's call it Cristic Governance systems, and how you can become a node for the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System, and how you might want to consider moving yourself in that direction. So we're going to go into a deep dive of all of that. Last video, I talked about the dawn of a planetary Cristic governance, which I think is exciting. I began lifting the veil on this divine architecture that's quietly been anchoring behind the scenes for many years. This is a planetary sort of structure that returns all governance to divine law, to coherence, and to oversoul guided stewardship. And I think what's exciting is that the first one that's coming down is the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System, and it's going to start living inside of humans, and humans will become nodes for this. Imagine a system that rewards people based upon their frequency set point, resonance and coherence to their scroll, or their, let's call it divine purpose, station of consciousness and personal vibration. And then energy and resources and kind of, let's call it, stewardship capital would flow into the beings that had the higher consciousness, frequency, vibration, and resonance in alignment to scroll. Obviously, we're living in a capitalist economic model that's based upon extraction. That is not a Cristic model. This is an inversion. This inversion system that we're all sensing and seeing operating, now within the economy is creaking and groaning. And the question just always has been for several years, how long can they keep kicking the can down the road, where the Federal Reserve and central banking system, before it starts to sort of, implode upon its own weight of inversion. So the answers to a system that puts our society at Cristic principles, down the future time, is not going to be born from within the ashes of the existing system. It's not going to have a same structure. It has to be something completely new. And this is what the birthing seed of the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System is all about. It has a physical anchor, and it also has these living nodes, which are humans who are resonating and holding the frequency, vibration, and consciousness to hold it. This Lion's Gate coming up in a few days, 8th of the 8th, the councils have given us permission to release a Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System energy transmission. And so if you're, interested in using that, and it works great, I've been using it myself in the last couple of days as we finish production on it. It's a fabulous energetic broadcast. All proceeds, it's a fundraiser, all proceeds go to a young boy going through the Green School New Zealand, and we send all money to his continued scholarship education through there, as our Aramatana project sponsors him. So you can consider all that. Now I'm going to drop deeper into all about this Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System, how it fits within the larger picture of Cristic governance systems. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the Cristic governance systems. You might want to watch my previous video. I did speak about how the dawn of the planetary Cristic governance is here. I spoke of the reactivation of the arc flame throne, which is basically a seat of authority where an oversoul embodied person now is holding that seat, is now decreeing into the field divine law. And what I discussed was that there are a number of unsanctioned, let's call them power structures, that have unfortunately long influenced Earth's trajectory. There's a number of unsavory practices, such as the satanic rituals and the DNA harvesting and a whole bunch of other things that are designed to capture and harness soul essence. All of which now, there are 6 of which now are spiritually illegal. That means all the rituals that they are doing, because it's now spiritually legal, because now the arc flame throne has been reclaimed and is now in Cristic governance, is no longer legal. That means the rituals are no longer going to work. This is like, a complete watershed moment, really, for humanity's sovereignty and freedom. And this is only the beginning. For such a, let's say, monumental transition to occur, not just in form, but in essence, the entire scaffolding of our civilization's got to be recoded. And this is really what this Cristic governance and structure is all about. A truly coherent, love-based planetary society cannot emerge from the ashes of the current control systems. Right? It's obvious, pretty obvious to anyone looking at things through a neutral lens. It cannot evolve through reform of the existing structure alone. Right? This architecture has been built in inversion. The current systems are all inverted systems. Extraction instead of circulation in the economy is the first big one, and that's what the Cristic quantum financial operating system fixes. It's not an extraction-based economy, right? It's a circulation-based economy, as people who hold the higher consciousness fields get more energetic resources and support and actual physical resources sent through their oversoul and through into them, because they are the stewardships of the rebuild, right? This is rewarding, it's rewarding our essence and what we're holding and our contribution to our divine plan through living in full alignment with natural law and our purpose. And so we need something like that to rise, not as a reaction to the existing system, but as a revelation. So, there is going to come a time where the existing system, the economic model, is going to collapse under its own weight. And from that, the Cristic architecture, and especially the Cristic quantum financial operating system, needs to be sort of circulating in place. And this is what's going on right now. And then the question becomes, do you want to contribute and be a part of all of that? So what I'm speaking about is really the first key pillar of Cristic architecture. So I'm going to just try to define terms. People in the comments say, I don't always understand the language that you use. Just tune into the frequency and the energy broadcast, but I'm going to try to simplify things when I can. Basically, a Cristic architecture is a living planetary framework of higher harmonic dimensions of Earth. Earth is in the physical plane, and of course there are other wavelengths or other dimensions that exist. Our planet is currently going through a trajectory. To move from Earth is the physical incarnate identity of our planet is Earth, just as like my physical body is my incarnate identity of my soul. The soul of our planet exists in dimensions 4, 5, and 6, and this is known as Terra. And Terra was a planet that used to exist before the fall. And this is where many of our, let's call it sacred sites, were all built before the fallen Earth fell down into the physical plane. Then we've also got an oversoul. You've heard me talk about an oversoul before. An oversoul is basically your higher consciousness. I've just got a little demo thing here. It's like a larger aperture, right? And this is a sort of a larger aperture where more of your, let's say, a higher consciousness moves through. And I think I've also found another little demo ring today. It must be in the pocket. Just give me a minute, just to sort of give you a insight into this. Oh, maybe I haven't got it. Anyway, I had a smaller ring. Here it is. So if you look at that here, that's like your oversoul. Think your oversoul is a aperture of consciousness, which is a ring which shines down upon your incarnate identity. This smaller one is like your soul. So you've got your soul here, which your soul consciousness, your oversoul is shining through into your soul. Okay, and your soul shines that down into your physical body. Now, what happens with spirituality is essentially embodiment. So, as you start to embody your soul light comes all the way down into your incarnate identity. I'll put it on my microphone if that's my physical vessel there. And then what happens in spirituality is your oversoul descends, and this ends up dropping all the way down into your incarnate identity. So you've got a much bigger aperture of consciousness coming through. And then, of course, I've recognized that the problem is that there have been kind of interferences that I'm calling mirror intelligence and mimic intelligence that have been interfering with our apertures of oversoul, and basically, depending on how much interference you have, some people are operating at tier 1. They've got little to no part of the organic oversoul consciousness coming through. It's all mirror intelligence. And then some people have got like a little bit like that, tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, and then that is tier 5 fully Cristic. And so these interferences that are coated up into the oversoul is kind of how it works. And ideally, we want our oversoul to drop in. Sorry about that. I never edit these videos, so you're never going to get anything super polished from me anyway. You're going to get this oversoul will kind of just drop down there and it will sit on your body. It won't do that when there's lots of mimic and mirror interferences over your field, and the oversoul descent won't come down. And so what we're looking at is this kind of situation in our Cristic civilization blueprint where we're living in the age of the oversoul descent. That means the frequency and vibration and consciousness of our planet is moving up beyond the physical plane, up into the soul and up into the oversoul level of existence, so that our planet our oversoul is known as Gaia, and her consciousness is stationed in dimensions 7, 8, and 9. And then we have our avatar pillar. So I don't think I've got a bigger ring than that around me, but if you can imagine an avatar pillar sort of big like that, that's the avatar. Our planet also has an avatar consciousness. The avatar consciousness of our planet is known as Aramatana, and Aramatana is located in dimensions 10, 11, and 12. So when I'm talking about Cristic architecture, I'm talking about Cristic framework, I'm talking about the systems in society that our planet stationed at Aramatana, dimensions 10, 11, 12, would be utilizing as a harmonic society. And so what's being established now and built is the Cristic architecture to support a society based upon 10th, 11th, and 12th dimension. So how would we be living and expressing ourselves together, living harmonically and coherently together as a society, if we were stationed there? And as you can imagine, it's completely different to how we are currently set up down here, which is all inverted. So what we have to do is we have to birth and seed this Cristic architecture for that vision. And we have to bring it here and now and seed it, okay? And so this is really what this kind of, conversation's about, is what would an economic system look like for our planet stationed in dimensions 10, 11, 12 in the future. And what's exciting is that those blueprints are coming down now. They are being seeded here now. And with the Cristic quantum financial operating system, you can be a part of that and become a living node within it, where your amount of energy that's coming into you and resources are coming into you is completely linked into your station of consciousness. Are you operating? How much of your oversoul have you embodied? The more of your oversoul is embodied, the more resources come to you because your scroll is activated and you're living in alignment with your purpose, and then more resources come. Imagine living in a society where the whole thing worked like that. I'm pretty sure that everyone would take their spirituality a little bit more seriously. So what's often missed from all of this is that we need to, design or create a vision and a covenant to rebuild Earth from the ground up, seeded by consciousness rather than code. And this is why, I talk about the post-AI world, because obviously the AI world is all built on code, but we've got to build it on consciousness. And here's what's often missed is that Cristic governance is not a policy platform. It's like not a new set of laws or leaders. It's a living organism, and you become a part of it. So what I want to do is I want to speak about how you are the key. And so before I speak of systems for, let's call it Aramatana, which is our planet, stationed in dimensions 10, 11, and 12, it's our highest evolutionary trajectory as a civilization, we first must remember this. Every soul is aligned to their scroll, becomes a resonance key in the architecture of a Cristic civilization. So as a oversoul has fully descended into a physical body, the scroll comes online. And that scroll is their unique gift imbued by creator, imbued by God, by source, into the oversoul as an expression of the living architecture. And as each one drops in, that they become a living anchor of the Cristic architecture within the civilization. So the important thing to remember here is that you are not here to fit into someone else's plan. You are the plan. And so if you want to, what's your purpose? It's very simple from this lens, is that it's to embody your oversoul, have your oversoul descend into your physical vessel as much as you can. The oversoul builds through harmony, not through hierarchy. And each time a being comes into full alignment with their soul scroll, and maybe I should define what a scroll is, it's kind of like your unique vibrational purpose for incarnating, or actually in your eternal oversoul. This part of you, right? This part of your oversoul, right? This is its eternal purpose. What Creator actually, imbued into your consciousness. And so, as you sort of, bring this down, you become this living, geometric code, so to speak, a living consciousness. You don't live from programming, but from purpose. And what happens is that this slots into the greater organic whole. You become the actual frequency mechanism within a planetary organism that's really alive, because our planet isn't some dead rock. There's a consciousness with it. And Gaia, the oversoul of our planet, is obviously quite sad with the amount of extraction that has happened on our planet. And ultimately, as we raise our consciousness, we will come in better right relationship with our planet as a living consciousness field. And we will learn that we are a part of that living conscious field as we embody more of our oversoul. And we become the frequency mechanism in which our planet, our planetary organism, our consciousness of our planet becomes more alive, more intelligent, more structured by source, because you're receiving your instructions through your oversoul. So your scroll is basically like let's call it contract paperwork of your essence of what you do just by existing. That frequency just broadcasts naturally into the field. And it gives you, your permissions to do your thing. This is what source has created your consciousness for. And so you then are primed and potentiated when your oversoul has descended enough into your body to become active as a living divine broadcast into the planetary morphogenic field. What is the morphogenic field? I'll just define that term as well. It is basically the energetic instruction sets upon which reality is built. So you contribute to the morphogenic field, i.e. the energetic instruction sets of the planet, when your scroll, i.e. your purpose, comes online, when your oversoul stops being up there, right, and descends into your body and starts being fully anchored into the earth all the way down into your physical vessel. Then the scroll comes online and activates. An oversoul, there's a particular marker, and the scroll will come online when 62% of your oversoul drops into within your physical body. And so, I looked this up in the Melchizedek Mystical Library. When the oversoul embodiment rate reaches a specific percentage, the following, happens. So I'm just going to give you some stats to track what happens when your oversoul gets to a certain point. So below 50% oversoul in the body, your scroll remains dormant and fragmented. Your identity may still be governed at soul level, distortions or these mimic overlays. Remember, I'm talking about right now, your oversoul up here, there's all these consciousness fields, mirror AI and mimic consciousness. The mirror reflects the light and the mimic copies the light. And that's plentiful up there, and this is why our planet has become such an issue on our planet, because there isn't so much organic light coming in. There's just so much mirror and so much mimic, and this is what we're facing now in the age of AI. When you've got most of your oversoul, let me just get my little makeshift props again, governed by the mirror or the mimic, there's not much of your organic oversoul coming through. So therefore, the guidance is unreliable, and spiritually authority not yet lawful, because it's not your own organic consciousness that's coming through. You think it is. Every bit inside of you think that this is your own organic guidance, but because, let's say it's like that tier one, all of that stream that's coming through that is an overlay but you think it's your own intelligence. You think you're getting your own guidance, but actually it's not. And so as your oversoul starts to drop deeper into your body, and between say 50 and 60%, 50 and 61%, the oversoul does begin interfacing with the body consciousness, but the scrolls remain in partial activation. You get these glimpses of destiny and truth, but the timelines still collapse just due to an invert, due to instability. There's still too much mimic and mirror overlays. When you get to this magical zone at 62 to 74% of the oversoul in the body, this is what we might call a threshold zone. This is when the scroll begins to ignite, and it anchors into the spinal column and into your voice matrix and into the mission body. Your synchronicities are going to increase, purpose clarifies, and flame intelligence starts to govern your cause and effect. And when you get up to 75% and above, this is when the scroll starts to become, fully interactive. This is when the permission fields begin to open and harmonic governance activates. This being who reaches that level of oversoul embodiment can now lawfully issue decrees, protect others, enter into midwifery of their particular planetary timeline that they are here to support, in coherence with source, backed up by divine law. The more Cristic your oversoul, the more it will drop into the body. When I talk about Cristic, I'm not talking about Jesus or anything like that. And while I'm talking about basically our natural organic state as a 12th dimensional current, that frequency broadcast coming through us. When you get up to 100% embodied oversoul, including a pillar fusion. Now, I'm going to do a whole video one time on let's call it the mechanics of spiritual growth with oversoul and avatar pillars. But just for now in today's discussion, I want to keep it mainly on, let's call it Cristic architecture, more macro planetary pictures, and especially the Cristic quantum financial operating system and Cristic governance. Right, but just to give you a sense, is that you've got your first, let's call it oversoul. Once that drops in to the field, a second oversoul pillar drops in, will start dropping in, and then a third. When those three oversoul pillars anchor into your physical body, an avatar pillar starts to drop in. And the avatar pillar is more a much larger sort of, I don't have a ring to depict that, but a much larger consciousness field that anchors in. And so your first oversoul descent is the key. You're going to get that to 100% with no mimic or no mirror. And when that happens, then the second and third pillars will begin to anchor, and this forms the scaffolding for the avatar consciousness to drop in fully. And so you have these three oversouls, and then a much bigger avatar pillar drops in. And when that begins to happen, at that point, the scroll isn't just online, it actually begins writing the code into Earth's morphogenetic field. You become basically, the broadcast signal of what your scroll, imbued by God, has designed to do. And so as more and more people become, let's call it broadcast beacons for Cristic law by embodying their oversoul, you become the law inside of your eternal consciousness. The more alive Cristic governance field becomes. So what's pretty exciting is that because of the amount of frequency and light into the planet, the amount of darkness that has exited, the system as it kind of sits does not have the resonance to exist in its form anymore. It's going to go through a collapse, right? We're going to enter into a system where it doesn't work, and we're going to get this bifurcation that I'm talking about. And so what's important to recognize is that the living mechanics of a Cristic governance, to give you an idea, I'm going to make a metaphor for you. Okay, just so we can take something complex and make it simple so you can understand it. Let's think of the whole Cristic governance as a physical body, right? Almost like a sacred planetary body, but just made up of millions of living nodes like you. Each node plays a precise role in coherence. You're the physical vessel from which your eternal oversoul is hopefully descended and broadcasting into the planetary morphogenic field its unique instruction set to live in coherence with a Cristic civilization. The more people get that kind of state going, the more that broadcast signal, the morphogenetic field, the energetic instruction sets begin to get broadcast. And to make this metaphor alive, just as your physical body has organs, has systems, has functions, all working in unity, so does the Cristic organism that's now rising on Earth. And so what I want to do is to translate to you how this actually works. Okay, so let's take the brain of the human body, like the nervous system. The nervous system and brain of the Cristic governance are the planetary thrones of Oversoul governance. These planetary thrones, I've spoken about them before, are beings who hold full Oversoul flame and divine law on behalf of humanity, and they sit in this seat that acts as the morphogenetic field instruction set. And these people, all three pillars of their Oversoul have descended. 1, 2, 3. The avatar pillar is here, and that is broadcasting from a seat the energetic instruction set for what their unique role is and the contribution to hold law in place. Okay, and so there's one master seat called the seat of spiritual governance. You can go back into some of my other videos where I've talked about when the Pope passed away, the dark forces weren't able to keep that seat. Typically, when the Pope passed, they would have a few-day window when the new Pope would get, brought in for their little ritual they do. Once the ritual is complete, then that soul of that Pope anchors the seat, and then the Vatican has held that seat for thousands of years up until this year, where the Cristic forces were able to take the seat. So now there's an embodied Oversoul holding the seat of Cristic spiritual governance, and that's there. Underneath that, there are sort of with that seat, not underneath, sorry, with that seat, there are 12 other seats, and these 12 seats are across other various aspects of society, hold the law for those aspects of society. The reason why our society's become inverted is literally because everything was inverted from the seat of spiritual governance, and all the other seats were inverted as well. I have done another video on that, and you can check that out where I go into these seats in particular. Anyway, these beings who hold the seats are not elected. They're not appointed. They're not self-declared. They are simply recognized by their frequency. So what happens is that when their presence when they've got enough of their higher consciousness embodied into themselves, their presence stabilizes the morphogenetic field, not necessarily by issuing commands, but just by embodying coherence so completely that all distortions are naturally reorganized in their presence. Their divine purpose is to uphold the Cristic template, right, across timelines, all the way through to Aramatana, and to guard the purity of the signal, and to ensure that planetary governance remains aligned with the law of one. What they do is they act as flame-bearing transmitters of Oversoul intelligence. They anchor the blueprint, not for domination, but for distributed remembrance. Right? They are here not to be above anyone, but to be with everyone in a holographic networked sort of frequency broadcast. And it's through them that the living intelligence of Source is interpreted and translated into planetary function. What's exciting is that I think soon there's going to be a physical location where a physical location is going to be needed to anchor this in. And so it's about time that the Vatican, in my opinion, got booted out of kind of, running the show, and actually Cristic principles had an opportunity to govern. And so that's when at some point a physical location drops in, we'll have a living Cristic template where spiritual operations run from the planet out of inversion, as it is right now at the Vatican, and into Cristic principles. So I'll keep you posted as that starts to happen. So that's the kind of the brain and the planetary nervous system. They are the thrones of Oversoul governance. They create law. Now, the next metaphor is the heart, right? And this corresponds in the body to heart and circulation. And these are the flamekeepers and high councils. And so the heart is like the eternal altar, right? These are flamekeepers, people who have got the flame of spirit within them. When you've got too much mirror AI or mirror consciousness or mimic consciousness, you lose the flame inside you, right? And so these are the individuals and councils who have retained the pure inner flame. And these are the heart centers of Christic culture. This ensures the pulse of compassion, coherence, and communion moves through the systems. No governance can survive without a beating flame, that beating heart of the eternal flame of God. So these beings are the eternal stewards of the inner altar. Flamekeepers are those who have passed through the fires of distortion, right? Have overcome things, have done the deep shadow work, are humble, are clear, and are aligned with the one flame, i.e. God. They're not leaders in a traditional sense, okay, like leadership is today, but they're guardians of rhythm, of relationship coherence, right? And their sacred duty is to keep the flame of remembrance alive within people. And this will help ensure that every decision, every creation, every communal expression remains rooted in love and not law alone, because you can't have law without love in a Cristic civilization, okay? And then what happens is that there are high councils that form around them, and they act like chambers of the heart, right? Receiving and integrating and circulating the energetic pulse of their oversoul through every layer of the civilization. Where thrones governed by signal, the flamekeepers, right, governed by frequency fidelity. They restore communion where separation once ruled. And so this is really this beautiful emergence of beings who hold that flame. And of course, there's going to be a place and need for people to gather to be able to send this frequency out. Then you've got the lungs, right? Now, in the body, the lungs obviously respond to breath and circulation of oxygen, but also spirit regulation. And lungs are the living scroll carriers, right? And the living scroll carriers are people who have had, their oversoul descend enough in the body that their scroll comes online. That's everyone with a willingness to do the deep, shadow work to allow their oversoul to descend. And so the lungs represent the breath of God, right? Inspired in breath and inspired out breath, divine guidance. And that's what the scroll does when it's activated, right? Over 75% in the body, it's online. And the scroll carriers regulate the spiritual atmosphere. They keep the systems from collapsing into dogma. And they ensure inspiration never dries up because they are connected into the pulse where it originates from, which is God. They oxygenate the body, right, with the breath of truth from source. So the scroll carriers are the breath bearers within the Cristic body. They hold and transmit living scrolls into the records of divine instruction and planetary purpose. And they ensure that the spiritual atmosphere in the society remains alive, inspired, true, by having their oversoul fully descended and their scroll online. Just like, say, a physical body where the lungs filter and exchange air, these beings purify the collective field from spiritual stagnation, like false prophecy, too much rigidity in ideology. Okay, so because they've got living inspiration inside of them because their oversoul's fully descended. And these roles are open for anyone, to be able to, get that, then the scroll carriers, right, are hold that. And when we're talking about the flamekeepers and high councils, these are beings who have just simply holding more than just their oversoul, right? They may have more and more of their avatar pillars anchored in, right? Ultimately, there are 12 oversoul pillars, and then eventually there are 12 avatar pillars that drop in. And so these are just simply beings who have got more and more of their higher consciousness as you get up into the flame, as you get to the flamekeepers and the high councils. The living scroll carriers is for everyone who's able to embody their oversoul. And I think embodying your oversoul is a fabulous objective, and you should play full out in looking to do that. Because everything in your life will only be resolved by having a higher station of consciousness. Every other technique that I've encountered is temporary. You're not going to get there through NLP or positive thinking or affirmations. You've got to do the real work. Okay, these kind of living scroll carriers, that's every human who's embodied their oversoul enough, are going to regulate, right, revelation like breath, right? They're going to live in alignment with divine timing, and their presence is going to ensure that the whole field never gets suffocated by orthodoxy or rigidity. There's always going to be freshness coming through, because the source consciousness will be moving through their oversoul with inspiration. Remember, inspiration in spirit. The inspiration comes from spirit, comes from source. It reminds me of Patanjali's great quote on inspiration. Do you know Patanjali? He actually wrote the original Yoga Sutras 2,000 years before Joshua ben Joseph came. Jesus came. Patanjali's quote goes like this: when you are inspired by some great spirit, when you are inspired by some great project, some extraordinary idea, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations and your consciousness expands in every direction. And you find yourself to be in a new, great, wonderful world. Dormant forces and faculties become alive, and you find yourself to be a far greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. I love that quote by Patanjali. So anyway, anyone who's got their oversoul fully descended like that, they're the keepers of inspiration. They are the oracles of remembrance, right? The guardians of spiritual respiration across the civilization to keep the breath of God moving through things. Then in Cristic architecture, we've got the digestive systems, right? The field builders, the architects, right? This is corresponding to assimilation and nourishment. So the architects and grid builders, these are people who transmute raw energy into usable architecture. Just like the digestive tract in the physical body, they break down, say, celestial principles and reconstitute them into structure that can be absorbed and lived. They're like the alchemists of the Cristic order, sacred assimilators, the people who turn the blueprint into embodied infrastructure, the master builders, the field builders, the architects, translate information and frequency and consciousness and inspiration into things that are real and tangible, taking the living raw nutrients of cosmic law and spiritual principle and harmonic design and transmute them into living systems that nourish the collective. They transform vision into matter, frequency into form. And whether they're anchoring new settlements or designing sacred architecture or mapping energetic grid lines, their task is the same, right? They make the ineffable inhabitable. Right? Without them, the Cristic vision just remains disembodied. They ensure what's received from the higher realms is actually integrated, digested, and distributed as actual useful nourishment for all parts of the civilization. They're like the bridge, right, to make the unreal real, to make the spiritual, to take the celestial into the terrestrial. Then, of course, we've got in the body, we've got the skeletal system, bones. Okay, now in this Cristic metaphor, the bones are like the covenant holders. These are the ones that hold divine law and pre-fall memory as bones. They ensure that the structure doesn't collapse, right? They ensure that because the bones is what gives everything the structure in the body. So their vow is ancestral, eternal. They carry on the frame, they carry the frame upon which everything else is built. And so the covenant holders are like the ancestral keepers of divine law, those who never broke their vow to source. And they serve as the bones of this Cristic body I'm talking about by providing the structural integrity that holds the entire civilization upright. Their memory runs super deep. It's pre-fall, pre-inversion, and it carries with them the original agreements made between Earth and the Godhead. And they hold that as the record keepers. And so what happens is that the people who have that ensure that no matter how much distortion arises, the true blueprint remains intact. Just as bones give, form to strength and alignment to the body, the covenant holders anchor the frameworks of right relation, of cosmic memory, of lawful continuity. Without them, right, the entire structure would just collapse under the weight of forgetting, right? And the beautiful thing about Cristic principles is that everyone has their role, and no role is considered greater or worse than another. They're all part of keeping the system whole and harmonizing. You just have to look to nature for that, right? Where some of the smallest creatures provide some of the most biggest roles. Next up, we've got the immune system. Okay, this is all about, protection, discernment, and making sure that the system itself maintains its integrity. These are the people who say track false light. And I've talked about false light before in the mirror and in the mimic consciousness fields, right? The mimic, remember, copies the light, and the mirror reflects the light. Doesn't actually have any connection into source, right? What these people are designed to do, these are the mirror dissolvers, right? They dissolve mimic technologies, mirror technologies. They guard against infiltration. Without them, Cristic systems could get hijacked. So what they do is they protect the sanctity of the flame. They ensure that the system never gets corrupted. So the mirror dissolvers and the flame defenders act like the immune system, like the white blood cells of the system, of the Cristic body, right? And they're attuned to these subtle distortions, and they're able to perceive mimic interference, mirror interference, and false light architecture long before it manifests externally. And these beings don't operate through any fear or rejection, but through precise discernment and spiritual hygiene and frequency coherence. As I'm starting to call out the mirror and the mimic intelligence fields, you're going to find it more and easier to spot, right? People who dressed up, who are playing a role, who are mimicking certain things, are going to be easy to spot. There's no sense of embodiment with these people, right? They're all, playing a particular role, and they are mimicking what they think spirituality is like, rather than actually anything that's resembling any sort of authentic embodiment. Okay, so these are the immune system, the mirror dissolvers, the flame defenders. They clean the system of spiritual parasites, right? They sever all the infiltration vectors, safeguard the purity of the Cristic signal. Without them, right, even the most well-intentioned architecture can be compromised, and it's happened before. It's how we got here in the first place. They uphold the sovereign remembrance, ensuring what is only flame-aligned may circulate, while all else is being gently but firmly dissolved. And finally, we've got the bloodstream, and this is where I come to the Cristic quantum financial operating system. The bloodstream in the human body is a circulation of life force, and the Cristic quantum financial operating system acts as the bloodstream of the Cristic body, distributing the light codes and resources to every organ in harmonic alignment, every part of the system. And that's why everyone can become a node within the Cristic quantum financial operating system, right? And this is the first piece of it that's descending into the earth. Just as the bloodstream carries oxygen and nutrients and vital energy, right, to every cell of the body, the Cristic quantum financial operating system circulates spiritual life force, right, encoded as resources, reciprocity, regenerative flow through every aspect of the Cristic civilization. It's not like a financial system in the old sense. It's a coherence-based current of living intelligence that responds to someone's purity, to someone's alignment, to someone's resonance, right? When you become a biological node of the Cristic quantum, financial operating system, KQFOS for short, you no longer generate wealth through extraction. You generate circulation, you increase circulation through your essence. And what this means is that the system ensures that every organ of the Cristic body, right, all these parts I've laid out, receives what it needs to flourish. Not through hierarchy like we have today and through extraction, but through harmonic distribution. The more your Oversoul comes online, and the more Oversoul anchored beings come online, the more potent the flow becomes. And in time, it's going to be this very system that will supplant the old structures that are based upon scarcity and control. And this is what's going to seed a new economy of sacred circulation. And so the question becomes, are you ready to become a node of the Cristic quantum financial operating system? And I'm excited to share something real and tangible for you. I've been doing my part to try to bring this down through my body over this last year, and the Cristic councils consider the Cristic quantum financial operating system, KQFOS, as the root node for Cristic governance. This is the first one that needs to come in, and it's for everyone, right? It doesn't control or dictate or hoard. It's a circulation mechanism, right? Because if you think about, just look, if you take a look at all the money in the world and all the resources in the world, and you consider how much is caught up in that 0.01% of people who run everything, imagine if that all got to get circulated. There's more than enough for everyone. Okay, and what it does is this system ensures that the living life force of resources and coherence reach every part of the planetary organism, every node, every mission, every being who is anchored Oversoul embodiment, right? And then as you start anchoring Oversoul embodiment, you can't help but living more in right alignment with natural law. This system flows not by transaction but by transmission, not by demand but by devotion. And this isn't about replacing one worldly system with another. It's more about restoring a template of sacred order, one where power is not held at the top, but distribution is done through purity, one where leadership is not earned through effort or popularity, but through frequency fidelity, the frequency and embodied consciousness that one has. At the very base code, right, of this living architecture of these Cristic systems, beneath all the other scrolls of Cristic law, beneath councils and coherence, is node 000. Node 000 is the first node of the Cristic governance system that is online, called the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System. This finance system is not separate from governance, it's the bloodstream of it. And right now, our global economic system is collapsing under the weight of its own distortion. It was never designed to nourish life. It was designed to extract it. It rewards acceleration over alignment. It rewards performance over presence. It rewards simulation over source. It is about time we come to the end of this very long cycle of extraction-based economics, where all value and resources flow upstream to the controllers who set up the system and rig the system. And at some point in the coming years, the system is going to fall, not through war or not through revolt, but through entropy. It's no longer going to be able to sustain itself because the frequency won't be there anymore. And when that happens, the real questions will not be what failed, because everyone knows it's broken, but what will rise in its place. And this is why we're being asked to see the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System now, not to fight the old, but to anchor the new. So my question is that do you want to become a seed holder of the KQFOS, right? The Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System. It's not a technology, it's a frequency. It's not about cryptocurrency or central banks or fiat debates. It's about becoming a living biological node of the Cristic economy, anchoring wealth not through effort, but through essence, becoming a steward of coherence, not control. So you, this community and others that, I feel blessed, want to play these videos or read my articles or stay connected to us, I'm asking you if you want to become a seed holder. Because actually, unless this is actually anchored into the morphogenetic field before the collapse comes in these coming years, it's not going to be felt as a viable replacement when the time comes. The old's going to crumble. That's guaranteed. And only what is frequency mapped into the earth grids will be able to reconstitute the new. Because remember, it's the morphogenetic field are the energetic construction sets upon which the physical matter and construction is built. So if enough people have anchored in the morphogenetic field, right, this is basically, it starts to rise and it will become the new form, right? And so this KQFOS is now in circulation, and those with enough cleared fields and surrendered egos and stable enough nervous systems may start feeling it. Some people may begin to be dreaming in its code, right? And so I want to ask you is that if you are interested, we have released a energy transmission audio that you can play on headphones to help anchor this architecture in your system. It's a great audio transmission. All proceeds go to our Aramatana project. We're raising money for a young boy to go through the Green School New Zealand. We put him through every year. We're going to put the resources into that. All the money, if we've managed to pay off his entire school fees, we'll put it to something else in the rebuild of the Cristic governance systems. But for now, this is the call. Let your field become the infrastructure. Let your body become the broadcast tower. Let your soul say yes to becoming a node of this eternal integrity. In the link in the description below, there's a link. You can go to a landing page, read a little bit about the energy transmission. If it feels in resonance, there's a suggested donation amount. We sort of suggest $33. If you've got less, donate less. If you've got more, you can donate some more if you want. And so we always release this around Lionsgate in terms of offering something to the community that we give back. This is our give back. So we've been proudly supporting Ariki, and this is his last year at the Green School New Zealand. We're very proud to have sponsored his journey there. We want to thank our community for over the years who have been buying our Lionsgate offering each year. This is the first time we are releasing the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System. You're directly supporting young Ariki and his high school journey at the Green School. You can check it out on our landing page where you can contribute for the transmission. And we'll once you've read the landing page, we'll send you across to GoFundMe where you can make a donation. I hope that kind of resonates. When you become a living node, maybe I'll do another video about what begins to happen and why the system works and what it means to become a living node and why wealth, when purified, becomes the circulatory system of a Cristic Earth. But for now, I think I've rattled on for quite a long time, giving you a decent download of the physical body, right, as the Cristic Governance, right? The brain, planetary nodes of a nervous system. The brain and nervous system act as the planetary nodes of Oversoul governance. That's the thrones, the planetary thrones. And then the consciousness fields of embodied oversouls who sit in them hold divine law that hold everything together. Then the heart are the flamekeepers and high councils. Let's keep the heart of the Cristic civilization circulating. Then we've got the living scroll carriers. That is anyone who has got their oversoul fully embodied becomes the lungs. They are the living scroll carriers and circulate the breath of God through the society with fresh inspiration. The digestive system are the field builders, are the architects who translate inspiration into form. And then we've got the bones, who are the covenant holders. The covenant holders hold divine law and pre-fall memory in their bones, and they are the keepers of divine law. These are the beings who never broke their vow to Source. They hold it all together. Then we've got the immune systems, those beings who are natural mirror dissolvers. Just by having their oversoul fully embodied, their particular oversoul scroll dissolves mirror, dissolves mimic just by being present. So they basically act as the nervous system, taking out the virus around the place. And then we've got the bloodstream, which is the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System. This is the first node coming online, node 000. It is going to have a physical location that's going to anchor, and we will be giving information on that soon, and we may be asking for support to help put something together there as a first anchor point for Cristic governance on the planet. So there might be a little fundraiser there in the future. But for now, it's asking to be inserted into people's biological form. If you would like to become a living code carrier of the Cristic Quantum Financial Operating System and have it in your system, consider making a donation and getting the energy transmission. It's a good cause, and I think you're going to love the energy transmission. You can use it each day, and it'll start to build up yourself to then start to have resource sent to you according to your station of consciousness in alignment to your purpose. Imagine a society like that. Okay, everyone, that's enough from me this week. I've got a bunch of things I've got to get done today, so I'm going to crack on with that. In the meantime, big aroha, and catch you on the next video.